Hello, folks. Got to start with something to toast the new book. Hey, it's Christine. Hello, Christine. Welcome. Cheers to you. Oh, that's a nice red too. I'm just going to take this bottle out of the way so it doesn't interfere with our work today, or with my work. Yes, with my book launch. I'm very excited about the book launch and looking forward to it. So just give me one moment. Raise back. So let me get this out of the way. The music we're playing is copyright free, so hopefully we won't get dinged for that. And I'll be back in a moment. Just one more moment of getting set up, and then we're good to go. All right, time to turn the music down and start talking. So, hello. If you're on the chat, do me a favor and pop on in. I see 3 people. I assume one of them is me, one of them is Christine, and one of them is probably Katrina. So I think that's all of us, and that's okay. That's a good start. So we're going to take a few moments here to say hello to everyone, or to the one who's here, and just talk a bit about the book. And then, hey, Leo's here. Hi, Leo. How you doing? Good to see you. And thank you so much for that lovely review. That was awesome. That made my heart thumpa, thumpa, thumpa. It was amazing. Very glad to see it. So yeah, I'm going to start, get things going. I just we'll start with a land acknowledgement. This is something that's kind of important these days. And hopefully I can say the Haudenosaunee correctly. Hey, I did. So hopefully I'll do it twice. So here we go. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the land which we live and work in our currently 9 stories above is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississauga of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Huron-Wendat people, and is now home to diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. And this land is covered under Treaty 13 and is part of the Dish with One Spoon. It's kind of important we say that because there's a lot going on in the world, and anything we can do to make it a little better, that's a good thing to do. So, yeah, how we got here. Abowith was a project that sort of came about in the last year or two, really. As I got the idea for it before the pandemic hit, and then in the pandemic hit, I got time to write, so I did. And the idea of making it a novella series rather than a novel series was really about me being able to write them a little quicker, get them out a little faster. And I chose to self-publish because there's not as big a market in the big publishers for novellas as there is in the independent market. And so far, the reception has been great. I've had some lovely reviews on both the Trials of Abowith and on the Wire Noose. People who have previewed it have enjoyed it. And so I'm hoping that we'll get lots of good reviews on that tomorrow morning. And Miles McInnes is here. Hi, Miles. How you doing? Welcome. Thank you so much for showing up. The more of us, the merrier. So I hope everyone's got themselves a beverage, whether you're a wine drinker or a water drinker, whether you're coffee or tea or Coke or whatever, or pop. I hope you have your favorite with you because unfortunately I can't supply it to them all. Hey, Mudge the Expendable, thank you. So yeah, it's time to grab your beverage and raise it up and say hello, everyone, and welcome to the book launch. And so let's all have a sip and then dive right in, shall we? I'd like to take a moment to thank Katrina, my lovely wife, who helped me with the setup here. You'll notice I've got the bookshelf behind me to make it look as though I am living in a or that I have a nice office with a fancy bookshelf. In fact, I'm sitting in our living room with the kitchen table moved over so that it can act as my stand for the whole thing. Hey, Katie's here. Hi, Katie. Welcome so much. So I have a plan for tonight. I even wrote it down in between the grocery list and the notes about when I'm getting my COVID vaccine. And yay, I'm getting my COVID vaccine in June. Earliest one I could get. Shirley's here. Hi, Shirley. Welcome. My goodness, that's 7 people. This is 6 more people than I had at my. Actually, this is 7 more people than I had at my first reading. Way back when I first launched Small Magics. I was going up. I think Neil Gaiman was at the event. I think it was at the World Fantasy, and I had a small room, and Neil Gaiman was there. Louisa's here. Hi, Louisa. Thank you. Yeah, I had a small room at World Fantasy, and I was sitting there with my book, and I was all ready, and I waited. And I waited. And I waited. And then I waited some more, and no one showed up. So at about 20 after, I said the heck with it, and snuck out to listen to Neil Gaiman talking, because he was far more interesting than I was anyway. But so this is awesome. So glad everyone came. So yeah, at this point, I think we're gonna chit chat for a couple more minutes. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? We're gonna chit chat for a couple more minutes, and then we're going to I'm gonna dive into the first reading. And what I thought I'd do, I brought my iPad, and you can see very badly that the cover's on there, and unfortunately, you can see the reflection of the light that I'm using to brighten me up. So we're gonna. I did do much better at Ad Astra. Ad Astra, Miles. Ad Astra has always been one of my favorite places to go. I've always gotten good crowds there. I've gotten great people who came out and listened and enjoyed my books, and it always made me very happy. And I really can't wait till we get to do it all again. But at the rate things are going, I'm guessing that's going to be 2022. I know Ad Astra usually goes up in September, and I just don't see us getting live before that at the rate things are happening here in Canada. But we can hope. So yeah, so we're going to do a reading first and what I think I'll do is I'll read chapter 1. It's long, not a long chapter, but it sets things up nicely and gets us going for it. And then after we do the reading, I thought we'd hold our first contest of the night. So this will require all of you to use your heads, okay, to come up with the contest. All right. Sorry, I've come up with a contest, but you'll need to come up with the answers, and I'm not going to give you any sneaks about it, but I'll give you a clue. It involves the first book. And don't worry if you haven't read the first book. That's okay. You don't need to get this. So we're going to do that. We're going to do a contest. I'll do a Q&A after that. Any questions people have about the books, about the process, about the new apartment, about what exciting things are happening in my life, I'll happily answer those. And hopefully that'll take about another 15 minutes because we got to stretch this out to an hour tonight. And it's very strange doing it this way, because normally when I do a book launch, I've done several for myself and for other people, and you got sort of your launch time, and you get everyone in there and they all mingle about for 15-20 minutes and chit chat and have a great time, and then the author will now speak, and you come, you say hi, you do your reading, and then you go mingle for about an hour and drink and talk and eat chips and try to get stuff on your shirt so you don't look silly when you go up for a second reading for the evening. So it's very strange to be doing this all by myself. So I'm counting on all of you, questions and exciting things that I can answer to fill in the time a bit. After the Q&A, we'll do a second reading, and then we have the typo prize winner. Now, as you may know, in the previous newsletter sent out, not the one this week, but the one previous, there was a typo in it, and whoever can tell me what that typo is tonight will be able to win the prize. And someone already has, so I've already got one entry. And if there's more than one, I'll draw a name at random. And then we're going to do a final end the evening with a nice toast to everyone, saying thank you all so much for coming. And then I'll just hang out, chit chat, answer questions, whatever's going on. We're officially over at 9, but I may hang on longer if people want to talk or ask questions or do stuff. And if you got to go at any time in this, you got to go. So thank you all so much for showing up, first of all. And hey, let's get reading, why don't we? I see we've got 10 people. So I want you to know that 2's company, 3's a crowd, 4 is a group, 5 is a mod, 10 is a horde. We have a horde of people here tonight, and I'm very excited about it. So with no further ado, I'm going to take myself a sip of water, get my throat a little lubricated here. I'm going to take a deep breath to slow down my talking so you can actually understand me when I'm reading. And we're gonna do our reading. So, the Wire Noose, Chapter 1. I should mention I'm using a very old iPad, and it's being a bit grumpy about the whole being used thing. I had to spend half the day making it work again. Oh, Louisa, wherever you are, you're in a horde, because you're a horde of one. I miss you. We gotta cross blades and sword fight and stuff again soon, and Eric and everyone. All right. Are you seated It was going to sound so cool too. Let's try that again. 1 second. Are you seated comfortably? Then we'll begin. The Wire Noose, Chapter 1. This is not how I pictured being a stalker. Aberwith tossed another shovelful of urine-soaked hay and manure into the wheelbarrow with a wet splat. She sighed. How can so few horses create so much mess? To be fair, shoveling stables had nothing to do with her being a stalker. Her father's friend, the owner of Tancolio and Sons Provincial Post Service, had loaned Aberwith a horse so she could ride to a Braniotalk. She was supposed to deliver it to the post station before joining the Knights of the Exculpatory Order. Then a pack of Sarusks, shape-shifting miscreations, had almost killed her and ate the horse, leaving her on the hook for the cost of the animal. Aberwith hadn't become a knight either. Instead, she became a stalker in training, which meant she earned enough for food and shelter and not much more. Fortunately, the owner of Braniotalk's post station had once been Aberwith's sweetheart, and once he learned she hadn't come to marry him, was happy to help. So now, 2 months later, Aberwith was shoveling the post office stables and living in the tack room. Aberwith emptied the wheelbarrow into the dung heap, put the shovel away, and headed to her room. Bridles, reins, saddles, and saddlebags crowded the walls, and the room's only cupboard was filled with saddle blankets. Still, Saliso and Eliorith, his lover, had given her a cot to sleep on, a chest for her belongings, a washstand, and a small desk. It was tight, but it was only temporary until she paid off the horse. Then she could afford to live somewhere else. She stripped off her stable clothes, rinsed her body with the wash basin, and was tying off her breastcloth when a knocking shook the thin door. "Abby," Saliso called, "we need to talk to you." "One moment." Saliso sounded serious, which was concerning because seriousness was not part of Saliso's nature. Aberwith hurried into her breeches and shirt and sat on the bed. She pulled up a breech leg and grabbed a stocking. "Come in." Saliso opened the door, but instead of coming in, he stayed in the doorway, shifting from foot to foot. Eliorith stood behind him, her eyes on the floor and her face flushed. Neither spoke. Aberwith tied the first stocking with a garter above her knee and shoved the breech leg down over it. "Yes?" Salisio's nervousness might have been funny if he didn't look so serious. After several false starts, which gave Aberwith enough time to tie up the other stocking, he said, "We're missing some apples." Aberwith's head tilted of its own accord. "Apples?" "2 or 3 have been vanishing from the storeroom every few days. I was wondering if you were feeding them to the horses." "No." Aberwith waited for more, but neither Saliso nor Eliorith spoke, and both appeared remarkably uncomfortable. "Is there something else?" Saliso opened his mouth, closed it, took a big breath, and opened it again. "So, you know my father?" Aberwith sighed. "Yes, Saliso, I know your father." "And you know how he lent you a horse?" "And it got killed, and I'm shoveling manure to pay for it." She looked past him. "Eliorith, what is going on?" Eliorith blushed a deeper red. "My father thinks we aren't talking to each other." The words tumbled from Salisio's mouth like water from an open sluice gate. "He told me he loaned you the horse so we could meet each other again and take up our relationship, because having a knight in the family was good for business, and we get along well. He really likes you, Aberwith, and wants you to be for a daughter-in-law, but I'm with Eliorith, so I said we weren't on speaking terms." Aberwith frowned. "Did you tell him about Eliorith?" "No!" Saliso threw a panic glance at Eliorith, who was still bright red and staring at the floor. "Eliorith asked me not to because her parents don't approve, and if my father doesn't either, then they might try to force us apart." Aberwith wasn't sure that made sense, but let it lie. "And why are you telling me this now?" "Because he's coming to visit." Salisio's face turned red to match Eliorith's. "I need you to move out." "What?" "Please," Eliorith stepped forward. "Please, Aberwith. I'm going to introduce him to Eliorith, Celicio explained. But if you're living here, I'll have to explain everything and we'll argue and... Please, Abby? Abby's fists clenched in frustration. When is he coming? Celicio winced. Next ninth day? Next... Shock made Aberwith's mouth fall open. Fury snapped it shut. Celicio, you're an idiot. I know, Celicio agreed miserably. Aberwith had no sympathy at all. I don't have money for a room. I still haven't finished paying for the horse. We can loan you the... Celicio started. Oh, you can pay the first 3 months is what you can do. Does that mean you'll do it? For the first time, Celicio sounded hopeful. Aberwith seriously considered punching him, but only for a moment. She liked Eliorith, and hitting Celicio would hurt the woman's feelings. Instead, she shoved her feet into her boots, grabbed her jacket, and pushed past them both, saying over her shoulder, "We will discuss this tonight." Stupid, idiotic, imbecile, she thought as Aberwith stomped out of the yard, around the post office and toward the city gate. Beyond it, the 4 terraces of the inner city rose high to the citadel. Gardens covered walls and roofs, turning them dark green with summer foliage. It was a half-an-hour walk up to the Stalker house in the citadel, and Aberwith suspected nothing could improve her mood along the way. "Abby!" Lycerus' voice called out from behind her. "Wait up!" Except that. Aberwith turned and watched the tall, lean woman running towards her. When Lycerus reached her, Aberwith started running herself, stretching her legs to match Lycerus' longer stride. Together, they ran through the gates, heading for the nearest stairs. Aberwith had not known about the stairs that connected the terraces when she first arrived at Abraniatok, and had run 5 miles through the city to reach the citadel. Since then, Aberwith had used the stairs so often she knew them as well as the post office stables. "How are you?" Aberwith asked, watching Lycerus' gait. The woman ran with an easy stride, her long, strong legs moving with no trace of a limp. "How far did you run today?" "To the first mile marker." "Excellent." Lycerus shrugged. 2 months ago, it was easy. "Hi, Beverly." 2 months before, a Sarusk from the brood that killed Aberwith's horse was killing knight initiates. Aberwith and Lycerith had almost died fighting the beast. Lycerith received deep gashes in her thighs that left her walking with a cane for a month and a half. She had been the most fit of the knight's initiates before the injury, and it chafed her to fall behind the others. "In another month, I bet it will be easy," Aberwith said. "How's the rest of training?" "I started sword work again last ninth day. My form is terrible and my balance is off. Bellacchio even scored a hit on me." The disgust on her face that Bellacchio, a son of a knight and smug beyond words, had managed such a thing made Aberwith smile. Lycerus' mouth twisted in irritation. "It was embarrassing. How are you?" "Ugh." Aberwith's mood sank with the question. "Celicio just asked me to move out." "What?" Aberwith repeated her conversation as they jogged toward the stairs. Lycerus shook her head as she listened, and when Aberwith finished, said, "That's one of the stupider things I've heard." "Not the stupidest. I live with Bellacchio." That brought the smile back to Aberwith's face. "Better you than me." "Pity you can't move into the Initiate's Hall again. It's half empty now." "That many?" Night training had been hard, but Aberwith hadn't thought it was that hard. "The testing ramped up in the last month," Lycerith said. "A lot of initiates washed out." They reached the steps up to the second level, and conversation stopped. Lycerith ran up, teeth gritted together. On the next staircase, she slowed to a jog, and 4 steps into the third, Lycerith muttered a vicious curse and started walking, favoring her injured leg. "It is so..." Lycerith pressed her lips together in a tight line, swallowing her complaint. Aberwith nodded agreement, and they walked in silence up the stairs along the high citadel walls. "Off to work," Aberwith said as they reached the gate. "I'll see you tomorrow morning?" "Yes," Lycerith said. "Sorry I can't help you find an apartment." "It's fine. You've got to catch up on your training." "Yeah." Lycerith swallowed. And when she spoke again, the confidence that Aberwith was used to hearing had vanished from her voice. "This 9th day is 4 days away, and we're allowed to leave the citadel now, so want to have lunch? And if you don't have an apartment by then, we could search together." "Sure." Aberwith wondered at the change in Lycerith's tone. "I'd like that." Lycerith smiled, and a slight flush crept up her neck. "Meet you at the post office? Just after noon hour?" "All right." "Good. See you tomorrow, I hope." She waved and broke into a jog, heading to the Initiate's Hall with a bounce in her step. Aberwith watched her go, bemused, and headed for Stalker House. Despite its name, no one lived in the gray 3-story building at the far end of the citadel. It served as a base for the local squad of stalkers. Captain Marfolio, his partner Calliteeth, 9 other stalkers, and now Abowith, who did nothing but study and train. And speaking of studying, Abowith needed to spend the day in the Library of Miscreations, as the stalker called the 3rd floor of Stalker House. It was stacked with books, notebooks, papers, and scrolls, holding written accounts of every event the local stalkers had dealt with in the last 50 years. There were also reference compendiums with information on everything from miscreations to the city's political, magical, and guild leaders. The current bane of Abowith's existence was a 5-book set called Tracking Miscreations. She was good at many things, but tracking was not one. Captain Marfolio was determined to fix that. He had her memorizing and drawing out the tracks of every miscreation in the compendium. It was tedious and annoying, and Abowith applied herself to it with a grim determination. She spent the day before working through the huge miscreations volume, and today was starting large miscreations. Abowith grabbed an ink pot, pen, and sheets of paper, sat at the room's only table, and started to work. 4 hours later, the bell for lunch rang, and Abowith straightened, stretched with a groan, and stood. She put the book back, and her pages of sketched footprints in the leather folio that held her previous day's work, and went down to the tea room. She reached the door at the same time as Racolio, a tall, broad-shouldered man with straight dark hair and light brown skin. Captain Marfolio had once used Racolio to test Abowith's wrestling. He'd beaten her 2 falls out of 3. Once she joined the Stalkers, Racolio had worked to teach her new moves and improve her old ones while teasing her mercilessly. Abowith! He sniffed the air as he held the door for her. Still in the stables, are we? Yes. Abowith sniffed back as she walked past him. What's your excuse? Oh, I am wounded. He clutched his heart and rolled his eyes. Another day memorizing tracks? Yes. Good luck. Took me months, unlike some of us. Racolio directed the last at Calliteeth, a short-haired woman with a crooked nose sitting at a table with a plate of sausages and onions. Maybe if you studied on your time off, she suggested, instead of chasing everything on 2 legs. Now that's not fair, Locatio said from the table closest to the fireplace. He was the shortest of the stalkers and the slimmest. He was also the best short shot in the group and the second best sword fighter. I'm pretty sure he chased after everything on 4 legs as well. Abowith? Locatio? Kitchen door opened. The cook peered out. Growth was a stout and gray-haired, with a wrinkled face and a ready smile, which she turned on Abowith. Welcome. Lunch? Just bread. Abowith wanted more, but meals in the tea room cost money, and she had a horse to pay off. And tea, please. What, no welcome for me? Racolio asked. Until you settled your bill? No. Growth disappeared into the kitchen. I get paid in 2 days, Racolio called after her, so could I have a cup of tea? No. Abowith chuckled with the others. Garalth brought the bread and tea and a hot cup of water for Racolio, who gave her such profuse thanks that she threatened to take a rolling pin to him. Abowith sat with Calliteeth, who had become her friend during the search for the Sarusk, and watched the rest arrive. Eliorith came in first. She had blonde hair she wore in 2 long braids and pale skin that burned if she stayed in the sun. She talked continuously and was at that moment bending her partner's ear with speculations on why the price of wheat was going up again. Delago, her partner, had a deep brown complexion with straight black hair he wore in a top knot. He was the biggest stalker in girth and height, with a thunderous laugh. He could also move silently better than any of the others. Racolio sat beside them, and beside his partner, Salath, when she came in. The other 4 stalkers arrived together, Yelith, Quinlith, Garoflo, and Hagalith. They were finishing lunch when Captain Marfolio arrived. He was a wiry man with graying hair around his widow's peak and sharp dark eyes that saw everything. Stalkers rose to their feet and Marfolio nodded at his squad. Good day. Still haven't paid your bill, Racolio? This 8th day, Racolio promised, right after we get paid. Please do. Everyone sit, Marfolio said. We have been without a lieutenant for the last year. I can't believe he quit to join the merchant fleet, grumped Hagalith. Sorry, Halagith. I've always pronounced her name wrong, Halagith. He quit to join the merchant's son, Gorflofo said. Sailing the sea was just a perk. Whatever his reason, Marfolio raised his voice to stop any more conversation. We have been short a lieutenant, and our numbers have been uneven. Today I am correcting that. Calliteeth, stand up. Calliteeth's eyes rose as she stood. Congratulations. Marfolio tossed her a silver token on a chain. You are now the squad lieutenant. Calliteeth caught the token and stared at it, bemused. Yes, Captain. Don't be surprised, you've earned it. Celebration at the Dark Hole, declared Racolio over the applause. The Dark Hole was a bright, cheery public house with decent food and inexpensive beer, making it the stalkers' favorite drinking place. First round on Calliteeth! And speaking of promotions, Aberwith, stand up, Captain Marfolio said. It took Aberwith a moment to realize he was serious. She rose, the movement slow and uncertain. Captain Marfolio continued, most stalkers take a year before they become an assistant. Aberwith, lucky for her, had her Aunt Alicia, who spent 4 years preparing for the job. Also, the lieutenant needs a partner. He tossed another token, this one made of pewter, to Aberwith. She caught it with hands made clumsy with surprise. Aberwith, you are promoted to Stalker's assistant, assigned to Calateeth. Your field training begins today. From now on, wear the token on your belt and carry your weapons with you. And don't neglect your studies. I want those tracks memorized by the end of the next 9th day. Lacatio, you will take Calateeth's position as my adjunct. Yes, Captain, Lacatio said. Racolio, Silalath, Gorlofo, Halagith. There's an outbreak of Quizlix in Bilivik. The 4 stalkers groaned in unison. Quizlix were squirrel-sized miscreations, creatures made by magicians that ate stone. The magician Lenivo had made them to eat the foundations of his enemies' castles. After his death, they spread across the country. Fortunately, they only had a brood every 20 years, or there wouldn't be a stone building left standing. Unfortunately, they liked to nest in muddy hollows, and finding them was a wet, dirty job. Yes, I know, Marfolio said. You'll have a squad of knights and squires to help. Locate the nest and turn the knights loose. Finish your lunches and off you go. Calateeth, Aberwith, follow me. He led them outside, and Calateeth asked, Captain, what's happened? We have a body, Marfolio said. A city councillor found garroted in his room. Doors and shutters closed and locked. No sign of a human involved. You will do the preliminary investigation to determine if we are needed. Aberwith, accompany her and learn how to do the job. Off you go. And that's chapter 1. I left a bit out because I noticed that we're running a bit long on that, and so you'll take great joy in reading the descriptions of all the stalkers as we go forward. So, first chapter of the book, our setup. There is some information hidden there that is relevant to the rest of the book, so do a careful read when you read it. So, excuse me while I take a quick sip of this. And it is time to announce our first contest. Is everyone ready? If anyone's ready, someone say yeah on the chat. Anyone at all? Are you still here? Yay! Someone said yay. 2, 3, woohoo! I feel excited. 3 people there's a crowd of us ready. Okay. So, the first book. The first book of the series, the prequel, in fact, of the series, I released 2 months ago, maybe 2.5. And so, the question for all of you, and listen closely before you answer, the question for all of you is, what is the title of the prequel to this series? Wrong answers only. I'll read them out, and the best wrong answer gets the prize. And the prize is you will get a copy of an e-copy of Small Magics by Eric Buchanan. Yay! Sent to you by Dragon Moon Press. And what I'll do is I will put my email up on the chat right now. Put my email up on the chat right now, and whoever I announce the winner, you can. Did I do that wrong? I think I did. There we go. Okay, apparently that's the way it goes. Shirley's in the lead right now. That could really be the title of the second book. Though Paying for the Horse does involve a great deal of the first. Note is up. Oh, excellent. Okay, good. It's the bright red highlight I have on my screen that confused me. All right, so we have 4 guesses so far. We've got Sailor Moon, Trials of Aberwith, which is in fact the wrong title because it does not contain the word the. Oh, sorry, we've only got 3 guesses. The Stalker Stalks at Midnight. And Shirley Myers, Paying for the Expletive Horse. Lean towards Shirley, folks, but you got more than one try, so keep going. Who else wants to give it a shot? Aberwith has some clerical obstacles, but is faced with more violent justice systems.
I like Beverly's.
Yeah. First Lights. No. First Light was a film I did back in my youth. I played opposite this woman named Carmen. I wonder what's happened to her now. Hi, Carmen. Crestamathi of Evil. No time for magic. Having magic just sucks. Ooh, these are good ones. These are so good that I'm actually going to take a break, and instead of drinking the water, I am going to sip my wine and look contemplative. Not small magics. Creative-ish. Kind of like your first one, huh? Has some clear counsels and faced with more violent justice systems. Wine was so good I need a second sip. What's really sad is that behind me I have my snacks, but unfortunately I bought chips, and you don't want to hear me eating chips while we do this. What happened on the way to the trial? Sipping wine and looking contemplative. Okay, Carmen, that's just cheating, and you know it. I'm terrible at titles. I like Beverly's. Why is it always me? Have a great time. We'll see you in Twitter. See you much. Thank you so much for coming out. I still like Sailor Moon, says Christine Maitland. Okay, so we've all got the titles. Christine Maitland's is Sailor Moon. Katrina, my lovely wife in the other room, liked I Has Magic. It's actually, yeah, well, that's what she thinks anyway. I Has Magic. I subscribe to Eric. And Deer Stalker. Deer Stalker. I should really see that movie. It was supposed to be one of the seminal films of the 70s, but it's like, All right, let's do this for one more minute, and then we will we'll decide on a random contest winner, probably by me, running my finger over the screen or something. Louisa's is funny. Yeah, I like Louisa's. So Louisa's, the top three I've got right now. Louisa's, I've got Paying for the Effing Horse, and The Stalker Stalks at Midnight. So the question is, which of Louisa's do we like better? Do we like the Alworth has some clerical obstacles, but is faced with more violent justice systems? Or I subscribed to Eric's mailing list, and all I got was this ebook? I kind of like the second one better. Miscreation Stones. Miscreation Stories. Sorry. I read that as Miscreation Stones, which tells me I need to get, stop getting old so I can see better. Jesus, Shirley. Good one. Mailing list for the win. I am kind of leaning towards the mailing list for the win here. So give me an I. Top two, I'm going to say, okay, top three. I'm going to name each one at a time. And so the first one of our top three is I subscribed to Eric's mailing list, and all I got was this ebook. Ask me again. Yeah. Second one is Shirley Myers, Paying for the Effing Horse. And the third one is Beverly Bamberry's The Stalker Stalks at Midnight, I believe was the title. The Stalker Stalks at Midnight. So 1, 2, or 3, folks. What do you think? Give me some votes here. Any thoughts? Anything new? Any ideas? The first one, yeah. Mailing list for me too, says Louisa. Well, I'm surprised. 1 from Gunnar, 3 from Miles. Mailing list from Christine. I got 4 for the mailing list plus me. 1, 5, 6. All right, the mailing list it is. They are all great. Thank you all very much. Louisa, you've won. You got my email there. So email me yours, and you will get your e-copy of Small Magics delivered to you in the next couple of days after I convince my lovely publisher, Gwen Gades of Dragon Moon Press, to part with a copy for me. So yay! Wild applause for everyone. We're now entering the Q&A part of the evening, where I hope you've got lots of questions to fill up the time. So ask me anything, and I will answer truthfully, honestly, or hopefully humorously. Applause for Louisa. 0. No, that wasn't an option. Oh, that's a cheering sign. Yay. Loud applause. So, ask your author a question. How you came up with the naming conventions for your characters? I wanted something that would have a specific ring to the area to it. So, and interestingly enough, would have a specific gendering to it. So that male names or people who represent as male, in this case in the book, all end with a vowel, and all the female names end with a ch or a sh or a th, th, sh, or ch, and there's a specific name for those, and I forget what they are. Who inspired the main character? My daughter, actually, Maggie. She inspired the main character. She's a good kid. She's going through some struggles right now, and she's doing amazing. And sort of thought, if in an ideal world, what would a really smart person be up to? So that's where it came up to. So she was part of the inspiration, and a lot of other things. There's always a lot of other things. One of the reasons was that I'm bored of writing boys as leads. I did that with the Magic's books, and that was good. And a lot of my short stories had male leads, and so I thought it'd be interesting to do a female lead to see what that perspective felt like. And it is a different perspective and a different approach to life a bit, while maintaining some of those things that I like in my heroes. I like smart people for my heroes, so that was part of it. So that's the answer to that question. Next question. Anyone? Blue Bueller. Do you need people to tuckered as bodies? Not sure what that means, Shirley. Do you need people tuckerize? Quoi? Qu'est-ce que c'est que tuckerize? Still don't know what you're saying, Shirley. I'm sorry. Do you need people to tuckerize as tuckerize? Name after real people. Tuckerize a bit. Name after real people. Like have them in your book. Name after book. No. Writing friends in the book. I very rarely write my friends into my books. Certainly not their names, but I will tell you that nearly all my friends appear in my books, as do most of my enemies, as do most of the people I meet. Because we all know, I mean, I've got a fair whack of writers on here, and you all know how it goes. You see someone, you see a characteristic, you see a thought process, you see something, and something reminds you of that person. There's people that remind me. It's really sad that I don't know the word tuckerize. I should be better at this. But yeah. So there's always someone that reminds you of something in bits and pieces. There's a character. Yeah, Leslie, we do. There's bits and pieces of everyone that you ever meet in your book, but in a good book, you manage to mishmash them up in different ways so that people say, "Hey, that's a bit like me, but that's not really me." Is it? Or they go up to you and go, "That's not me," is it? And you're like, "God, no, it's not you, no." Or if you're feeling really mean, you take the people you don't like and you make the bad guy exactly like them and then kill them in horrible fashion afterwards. Not that I've done that often. Next question. I can talk about the lovely apartment while waiting for a question. We just moved to a nicer apartment in our building. It's actually much nicer. Our previous one was on the 2nd floor. We're now on the 9th. Very exciting. We have this huge view because there's no tall buildings out of our balcony, so we get to see most of the city. Has pandemic lockdown affected your writing? You are quite welcome, Christine Maitland. It was a deliberate choice. In thinking of the world, I wanted. I'm thinking of thought of the Roman Empire in terms of that and how very multicultural it was, except for, of course, the Romans were, colonizing scum. And I wanted something that represented the multiculturalism on it. Has panic lockdown affected your writing? Yes, God, yes. The depression bouts are very interesting. I get hit with those. And it becomes rough to write sometimes. But fortunately, I've got a routine, and as long as I can on the days I manage to stick to the routine, I get good writing done, and on the days I don't, I get really sulky about how little writing we've got done. So that's the answer to Carmen's question. Biggest struggle during creation. Really, because they're mysteries, the biggest struggle is figuring out who did it before I write the book. I've always preferred freestyle writing rather than plotting. But the freestyle writing doesn't work real well with murder mysteries, because if you don't know who done it, you can't write a who done it. So that was really the big challenge in the books, and especially in book 3. Actually, no, book 3 wasn't bad. Book 4, which I'm writing right now, was driving me spare. I finally figured out who done it, and now I'm hopefully going to get it written. Biggest struggle during creation. That was that one. Can I have some wine, Beverly? Why, sure, Beverly. Cheers. Here's to you. See, unfortunately, I can't bring it through the screen, so I'm just going to drink it in front of you and make you envious. Excuse me a second. Let's TV commercial wine. So lovely. All right. When is the next book coming? Hi, Gunnar. Ideally 3 months from now. 3 months from now, I'm hoping. I was aiming for 2 months, but I've been having some trouble getting the third and the fourth ones together because we moved. And so that so that got things slowed down a bit, but I'm back in process now. I'm getting the edits done on book 3. I've got a timeline. I am going to say here live that it is my intention to put out book 3 on July 29th, a Thursday night. By the way, if any of you record this, I will claim that it's fake if in case it doesn't work out. But that's the plan. July 29th should be the third. It should be the next book. Louisa, how's your new place and how do you lay out your workspace? The new place is awesome sauce. The bedroom is much larger than the old one, so we actually have space to work out in the bedroom. I've got this massive balcony, which I use as a workout space. And we're only 1 floor away from the rooftop patio, which I can book to practice sword fighting and stuff like that. Though I get nervous because I'm worried the swords are going to go flying off into the distance. Layout for the workplace. Unfortunately, I had a lovely little desk in the other one, but there's no room for it. So my layout is the kitchen table. In the morning, clear off the kitchen table, put down my laptop, and start typing, and that's how I lay out my workspace. Miles, how many books do you need to publish before you can live on writing income? Depends who you publish it with and how much they're paying you, really. It's a hard question. I mean, this is my 4th and 5th books that I publish are these two. Obviously, the 4th one is not making me any money because I did it specifically as basically a bonus for people who subscribe. So that one's not making me any money. This one, of course, will make me millions of dollars. Yeah, we all know that's not true. So we'll see. It's very much about economics of scale, getting enough people reading and getting it going. If, on the other hand, Penguin had offered me $1 million contract, the answer would have been 1. So yeah, Katrina, can you turn that down? I can hear it over here, and I'm hearing myself. Sorry, Katrina's listening to this in the other room. Mike Lishkin got Tanya Tucker-Rise, and his character got killed by a giant spider. Ha! That's hilarious. Love you. So yeah, Miles, it really much depends on the book. I'm hoping and praying that this whole writing novellas thing, getting them out every few months, building it up, will work into a living income eventually. Because honest to God, I'm tired of working for a living, and I'd much rather write. But in the meantime, I'm free for communications work for anyone who needs it. So call me up. My rates are unreasonable. Have you thought about applying for a writer's grant? Hey, Shirley's back. All right. Have you thought about applying for a writer's grant, OAC, Canada Council? I have not thought about it. The big thing right now was to get it going and get it up. Honestly, the whole granting process confuses the hell out of me. And the requirements for them seem to keep shifting. So maybe, but fantasy is not a favorite thing for people to give grant money to. Though Leah, I believe, is an expert on the grant writing process. Leah Bubba is here. She does great stuff on that. And so she's someone I'm hoping to talk to about that process, because that would be nice. Yeah, it's very hard to get grants. Yeah. Any more questions? Anything at all? Anything? Anyone? Use a wrist strap. You're worried about your sword flying up. True. I didn't know that Geek got managed to get a grant for Summer Tree. That's awesome. The risk score is for this sort is a good idea, and puts me in mind of what's your thoughts on bringing fantasy forward in later periods of technological process? Leo's got a question, so I'm going to stop waxing eloquent. I think it's important. If we look at magic as something that's not statically medieval or static to a period of time or counter to technology, then we get something really good. Whose books is it? Is Alex White? I can't remember. A lovely series of books I read recently, which were Magic in Space, sci-fi fantasy, starships powered by magic, and they were awesome. So yeah, those are a great deal of fun. So yeah, I like the idea of seeing what happens when magic and technology mix and how they do and how they don't. Especially in this world where we're in, where part of what's happening is we're seeing the beginnings of industrialization and how that will change the nature of the world. So yeah, I like magic. It's fun. How did you choose to write novels that have magic? I don't know that I chose. It just sort of seemed easiest. I've been reading fantasy and science fiction since I was a kid. I love the idea of magic because it gives us something to play with that isn't real at all, that requires a suspension of disbelief in a way that few other things did. Oh, Beverly's got to go. Bye, Beverly. Thanks so much for coming out. Appreciate it. Yay. So yeah, I like the magic. I like the suspension of disbelief, the imaginary world, just like that imaginary world we all have with our kids where stuff can happen that just can't happen, right? Science fiction is also a favorite of mine, and that's its own kind of magic when you're dealing with technologies that don't exist. And I think for science fiction writers today, one of the big challenges is that a lot of technologies that were science fiction in the 1960s are here now, right? Everything from waterbeds to cell phones, right, to Bluetooth. So. So yeah, so that's why I started writing magic. I just think it's neat, and it gives us that lovely suspension of disbelief and a world without magic. And of course, the fun thing with Aberwith is she's in a world with magic, and she can't use it at all, which makes her challenge that much more interesting. Yeah, Shirley, I agree with you. People in fantasy stories do recover from injury quick. I mean, I pulled a muscle in my shoulder. It took like 6 weeks to heal. Now I'm old, so like this happens, but I've been hurt a few times. We all have, and yeah, injuries take a while to heal up, and so that was one of the things I strive to have with this. Miles, next question: which writer was your favorite as a young person? Oh my God, I started reading Hardy Boy books when I was 6. I think I read about 50 of them. Started reading J.R.R. Tolkien when I was in grade 3. And by the way, that should not happen to Frodo at the end of Two Towers. That just shouldn't. That's not fair. I cried so much I didn't pick the book up again for another 3 years. And then I discovered what happened next. So yeah, Heinlein was one when I was a youth. Read a lot of Stephen King in my teenage years. Read a lot of horror. Read a lot of fantasy, sci-fi. David Eddings was in there. Tanya Huff was a huge one. Tanya Huff is an amazing writer, and really impressed me with her world building and her approaches to magic, and that was very exciting. So those were some of my favorites. I mean, I read everything. If there was a book, I read it. When I was in university and couldn't sleep at nights, I'd go down to the local store and buy whatever book was on the shelf. And boy, I read a lot of crap. That's how I met Eric van Lustbeda, who wrote ninja books. My God, they were something. Did I read Narnia? I did read Narnia. Narnia is amazing. Of course, being a kid, that whole Christian allegory thing kind of went right over my head. Didn't notice it at all. Because, and I think that was actually really one of the powers of the book, is that you don't notice the allegory because he wrote a really good, fun story. Andre Norton, sadly enough, I have not read Andre Norton. Not any particular reason. I just never quite got around to her. You can't read the Narnia books now? Fair. I still look at them as a piece of childhood. And so I can still read them and enjoy them. But yeah, I can understand that. I haven't read Andre Norton. I haven't read Ursula Le Guin. Can you believe it? I should. I really should. I just saw on Netflix, actually. Netflix is doing the Ghibli thing, Studio Ghibli thing. And I just saw Tales from Earthsea, and it was amazing. So I've really got to read her work too. What time are we at? Oh, good God, we're at 8:50. We might go over, which is okay. I had a second reading planned. And actually, someone may be joining us at 9 o'clock. My good friend Emily, who's an amazing filmmaker, may be popping in. By chance, did you read Ronald Welch's Juvenile Historicals? I don't think I did read Ronald Welch. Give me a title. I'm terrible at authors' names. I'm terrible at names, period. It's one of the great sadnesses of my life is I'll meet someone the next day and go, oh, hi, you. Because I can't remember names. Ronald Welch's Juvenile Historicals. I don't think I did. And yes, Don Tredair has a great opening line. Do I find writing groups beneficial? I really don't. And this is a personal thing. I know writers who do amazing things in writers groups and swear by their writers groups. I have tried 2 or 3 different ones, and each one has been its own form of disaster. It's never worked out for me. I've never managed to pull one off. So I find that I work better alone. I use beta readers sometimes when I can, depending on scheduling. I depend a lot on my wife, on immediate family for feedback, my editors. But no, I don't do writing groups. And again, it's just it's a personal preference. Some people really love their writing groups, and it really gives them the strength and the structure to keep writing. But for me, I don't know, maybe I'm just a curmudgeon and don't want to play with anyone else. That's the problem. I'm grumpy and old. Night Crusader, Captain of Dragoons. No, I don't think I've read them. Gunnar, sorry. Yeah, that's true, Shirley. It really does. Having everyone on the same page. With the writers groups I was in one which was run by a pair of psychiatrists who were all very ho she and were appalled at the stuff that I wrote because it was like, this reads like something mythological, and I'm like, thank you, and they're like, it wasn't a compliment. Another writers group I was in, I was the only one really pushing it as more of a hobby, and it was a time when we were all very busy in our lives and we all went our separate ways, and it was just a thing. And I've just never lucked into a good one since. I was actually on who was I on a panel with? One of the big wigs, and he was waxing eloquent about his writers group, and I was thinking, going, okay. Yeah, and that's a very important thing: is critique instead of criticize. Surely, it really makes a difference in helping people understand what the issues are with their writing. All right, it's 8:50, 8:53, in fact, so we're really cruising along. Who's up for a second reading? We can keep chit-chatting, or I can do a second reading. So all in favor of a second reading, give me an aye or a yes or a thumbs up or something on the chat there. This has been fun. It has indeed, Miles, and thank you so much for coming out. You got to go? Mimi, yeah, 2, 3, 4. Reading? So Christine Maitland is doing her own. No, she wants me to do the reading. Okay, I understand now. Second read, please. Okay. Well, since you've all asked, I thought we keep on going and do the second chapter. And I'll try to read at a reasonable pace. And okay, first I got to get my iPad working again. The iPad in question is actually 10 years old, and we discovered we lost the password for it, so I had to do a factory reset on the whole thing today. Eric just arrived. I was trying to figure out how to comment. I'm sure he would love to hear. Hi, Eric. That's Eric Fournier, one of the many Erics of Rape Your Wit and Stage Combat. And he and Louisa are 2 of my favorite people, just like all the rest of you are all my favorite people for coming out. And Carmen wants to hear too. Hey Carmen, while I'm finding my page, how's the show going with Alex? Is the shoot going good? All right. Too late to answer the question, Carmen. I'm now ready to read. Is everyone else ready? We all good? So, are you still sitting comfortably? Did you have a chance to have a drink? Or 2? Or 3? All right? Grab some snacks. Try to choose loudly so you can't hear. Sit back and relax. And let's do chapter 2. Look at everything when we get there, Calates said as they walked down the street on the city's 3rd level. She wore her sword and a brace of pistols at her belt. Ablewith's weapons were still at the post office, but Calativa deemed it more important to reach the site as soon as possible rather than fetch them. Be ready to describe what you see, but don't make any conclusions. After you say what you've seen, I'll tell you what I saw, then ask for your interpretation and give you mine. Understand? Yes, Callie. Hey, Eric Fournier's here. Hola, Eric. Yes, Callie. Ablewith stopped, frowning. Should I call you Lieutenant now? when we're on duty. Otherwise, it's still Callie. Yes, Lieutenant. Aberworth glanced around, trying to take in everything. Buildings of brick and stone rose on either side. Plants covered every surface, rising from window boxes and planters or trailing down the walls from gardens above. Many sported beans, tomatoes, or cucumbers. Others shone with summer blossoms. The rest wore 100 shades of green. While the third tier was less crowded than the first, with its harbor and its merchants, it was still busy. Men and women hurried past on errands or walked with their children, interspersed with occasional delivery persons and once in a while a noble in their train dressed in colors bright as birds. There's the house, Calateeth said. Observations. A crowd. Aberworth counted the people in the street. 15 total, 8 men, 7 women. 2 of the men are wearing City Watch uniforms and standing at the front door. One woman in City Watch uniforms with Sergeant Pips on her helmet, is talking to 2 men and a woman in yellow robes with fur-trimmed sleeves and gold chains on their necks. Everyone looks well off. That's interpretation, Calateeth said. Try again. Aberworth's lips twisted as she thought about it. Everyone's clothes are clean and not worn out. Their hair is tidy. Only those in the watch have dust on their boots. Good. What about the house? First in a line of 3 townhouses, made of gray stone, 3 stories high, Aberworth craned her neck, tile roof, and 6 windows. That you can see. That I can see, Aberworth corrected. All the shutters are open except one. There's no smoke from the chimney, and we are here, Calateeth finished for her as they reached the crowd. Let me do the talking. Calateeth pushed through the people to the sergeant, a tall woman with gray eyes and a sturdy frame under her armor, who frowned at the sight of her. The 3 in yellow followed the sergeant's gaze and added their frowns to hers. Calateeth, the sergeant said. Sergeant Billinish. Calateeth nodded at the women, then bowed to the others. Counselors? Thought they would have sent someone with rank, Sergeant Billinish said. They did. Calateeth held up the silver token. The sergeant's frown deepened. Suppose they had to replace the one that ran off to sea. Congratulations. Who is this woman? One yellow-robed man demanded. Why are you talking to her instead of hunting for the killer? Lieutenant Calateeth of the Stalkers, Billinish said, and I'm guessing that's why they are here. The complaining man was stout, with light brown skin, a round bald head, and a sour expression. His robe was of a very fine fabric, and a gold chain with heavy square links and a large medallion hung around his neck. The fur on his cuffs was light gray, thick and luxurious. Aberworth looked over the other 2 counselors. They wore identical chains, and the only difference in their robes was that the woman's sleeves had dark brown fur cuffs, and the man wore fur of mottled black and gray. The woman was taller than Aberworth, with dark skin and hair that fell straight down her back. The man was pale and shorter than both, with a long ponytail and a worried expression. And what are you staring at? The complainer demanded. Aberworth blushed and stammered an apology. She's new, Councillor Palaka, Calateeth said, both to the Stalkers and to the city. Assistant Stalker Aberworth, these are Councillors Palaka, Garando, and Kodelich. Aberworth bowed to them. Kodelich was the woman. Garando wore the muffled fur cuffs. She received slight nods in return. Garando sighed and ran his hand over his hair. I served on the city council with Wendalo for 10 years, he said. To find him dead like this is terrible. You found him? Aberworth asked. Palaka gave her a withering glance. Wendalo told us to meet him this morning. We have been working on a trade agreement with the city of Tilovokinen. I thought it was finished, but Wendalo had something else to discuss. So we came, and no, we didn't find him. The housekeeper went up to get him and started screaming. What time was that? Calateeth asked. I asked because it will help us figure out when he died. 2 hours ago, Councillor Durando said. We all ran to see what happened. Wolando's study door was locked, and there was blood under the door. Wolando's study was locked, and there was blood under the door. The butler came with the keys and opened the study, which is when we saw him. Did you go inside? We did not, Councillor Kodelich said. There was no need. No need? Aberworth asked. Why not? Because Wolando was clearly dead, Palaka snapped. Look for yourselves instead of wasting time questioning us. Apologies, Councillor, Calateeth said. In these cases, it's always good to hear from those who first saw the body. Did anyone notice anything unusual? Aside from Wolando's throat being slit, Councillor Palaka asked. We did not. Calateeth appeared unfazed by the man's rudeness. She turned to the other two counselors. And you? The floor was covered in blood, Kotelich said, and he was on his back, dead. You're sure he was dead? I served in the army. I'm sure. The butler tried to go in, but we stopped him and sent him for the watch, Palaka said. Then we came down and waited. And now, if you'll excuse us, we still have council business to attend. And I expect a report by the end of today on your findings. I'll ask the captain to send you one at his first convenience. Kalatif gave the man a slight bow. Thank you all for your time. Sergeant Bilinish? The sergeant led them past the gathered crowd and into the house's wide foyer. Abath watched Kalatif scan rooms from top to bottom as she walked and imitated her. The entrance hall stood 2 stories high and was painted a pale yellow that made it warm and welcoming in light coming from the windows set high in the outer wall. How many people have been inside? Kalatif asked. None since I arrived. Before that? Bilinish shrugged and started up the stairs. Who knows? What did the staff tell you? That the counselors came, the housekeeper let them into the parlor and went to find her master. She knocked at his study door, got no answer, tried to open it, and then saw the blood. She screamed, which brought everybody running. The butler opened the study with his keys, and they all saw the body. The counselor sent for us, and here we are. How long ago? About the 9th hour this morning. Bilinish reached the top of the stairs and turned down the hallways. It was the 10th hour before we got here. I heard their stories and examined the room. Then I told my commander, who called you lot in. Abowith caught the pungent, coppery scent of blood and stumbled. The smell invaded her mind, taking her back to her first morning as a night initiate, to a room with a bloody, hacked-up corpse and a screaming woman gripping the stump where her hand had been bitten off. Abowith's stomach churned. I'll need to talk to the housekeeper and the butler. Kelsey's voice sounded far away. What about family? Abowith gasped in a breath, clasped her hands to stop them shaking, and forced her mind to pay attention to Kalatif and the sergeant. 2 sons and a daughter, Sergeant Bilinish was saying, all married off and living in other cities. Bye, Leo. According to the housekeeper, his wife died a year ago. No lover. The bloody initiate's room faded from Abowith's sight, and the hallway came into focus as Kalatif asked, And the room door and shutters were locked? Yep. Butler swears only he and his master have the keys. The stink grew stronger with every step that Abowith took, but she managed not to throw up or fade back into memory again. 2 more watchmen stood by the open study door. The sergeant stopped and gestured for the stalkers to go in. Hope you can finish quickly. I'll do my best. Kalatif led Abowith inside. Observations, please. The blood-splashed floor took all of Abowith's attention. Her hands shook harder, and her eyes grew wet. She searched for her voice and couldn't find it, couldn't draw a breath. Abowith? The gentleness in Kalatif's voice made her shake even more. I need you to say what you see. Gotta get a kiddo good night. Good night, Leslie. Abowith blinked away her unshed tears and forced in a shallow breath, then another. She shifted her gaze from the bloody floor to the dead man's feet. Her voice squeaked as it came out. The corpse is lying on its back and is barefoot. It's a man. It appears to be a man, Kalatif corrected. Never assume. Right. Abowith swallowed against her gorge and kept going. Against her rising gorge and kept going. It's wearing a white nightshirt under a red house robe. The robe is tied. It has no jewelry on its hands. Abowith forced her gaze to travel up the body. She did her best to steady her voice, but it wasn't working. It's lying in a pool of blood in its throat. She stared at the man and frowned. The cut is strange. It is deep and goes all the way around the neck. Ugh. The corpse's skin is light brown, its hair is gray, and its nightcap matches its robe. Good. What do you smell? Death? Abowith shook her head. Sorry. Blood. Feces. That's it. Kalatif nodded. Tell me about the room. Abowith gladly looked away from the corpse. The study was lit only by the sunlight shining through the shutter slats. Abowith turned in a slow circle, talking as she went. It's a corner room. The window is on the west wall and the shutters are closed. I can't see if they're locked from here. There's a bookcase there, too. On the north wall, there's a fireplace, but no fire going. There are blood spatters on the fireplace and a lot of blood on the floor. There's a desk on the south wall. It's splattered, too. Not bad, Kalatif said. There are no visible cuts on the corpse's hand or any damage to its body anywhere but the neck. I see only one set of footprints in the blood. There's a ring of keys on the floor behind the door, and the fireplace flue is open. Calateeth knelt beside the corpse, careful to avoid the puddled blood. She pulled a pair of black leather gloves out of her hand. Always carry gloves. You get less blood on your hands. She pulled a pair of black leather gloves out of her jacket. This is what happens when you read ahead. Always carry gloves. You get less blood on your hands. Aberwith suppressed a shudder. I'll remember that. Calateeth grabbed the corpse's arm and tried to bend it. He's stiff, so he died no more than a day ago. Help me roll him. Aberwith stayed where she was, frozen. Calateeth spoke softly. We need to turn him. Can you do it? Aberwith's breath was coming too fast, and she feared she would pass out. Still, she knelt on the other side of the body, found a clean spot on his robe, and pulled as Calateeth pushed. Moving him brought a fresh wave of stench as the corpse rolled off the mess left when its bowels released. That's far enough, Calateeth said when he was halfway over. She pointed at the back of his neck. Whoever murdered him used a wire noose. It's a wire loop with one handle. You drop over the head and pull the handle, and it tightens like a noose. The wire is thin and serrated to cut through skin and muscle. Once it's on, it only takes seconds to kill. Come to this side. Aberwith rose on unsteady legs and walked around the body. Calateeth pointed to the man's neck. There's an indent from the loop where the cuts meet. What do you notice on his robe? Aberwith, grateful not to have to stare at the wound anymore, leaned closer. Blood had soaked through the fabric, but it's torn in several places. Like something dug into his robe and the skin underneath, and I don't feel well. The last shamed Aberwith to admit, but she was starting to wobble and didn't want to fall in the blood. I'm not surprised. Calateeth let the man down. Go check if the shutters are really locked. Aberwith went, her jaw clenched to keep what little was in her stomach from bursting free as she staggered to the window. Yes, bolted top and bottom. How hard are they to open? Aberwith tried the bolts. Easy from the inside, but I don't see a way to open them from the outside. All right, open the shutters and stick your head out. Calateeth laid the corpse back down and stood. Light and very welcome fresh air flooded into the room. Aberwith leaned out the window and breathed deep. The window opened onto the street below, now empty save for a pair of women chatting with the watchman. Aberwith kept breathing deep until her queasiness faded. She turned again, facing Calateeth and the corpse. Interpretation? Calateeth said, and it took Aberwith a moment to realize Calateeth was asking her. Aberwith glanced at the body, then closed her eyes and tried to imagine what happened. Someone garroted him, she said. He stumbled about the room fighting it. There are only his footprints, so the other person couldn't have stood on the floor. That makes no sense. If it was a person, Calateeth said. Continue. And the keys. Was he trying to open the door when he died? No. Calateeth pointed at the blood in the hallway. That would have hit the door. So whoever killed him closed the door and locked it with his keys and then escaped. How? Check the outside window and the window. Check the outside wall and the window frame. Aberwith stuck her head out. I don't think anyone could have climbed. She stopped, grimaced, and started again. Sorry, that's interpretation. The wall is smooth. The window still is dark brown wood. It's clean and there are scratches on the frame. Scratches? Calateeth followed Aberwith's pointing finger and leaned in close. Claw marks. Check the fireplace. All right. Aberwith knelt in front of it. What am I looking for? Paw prints in the ashes or claw marks in the flue? Aberwith saw nothing in the fireplace, but in the chimney she spotted a set of thin scratches in the black soot that covered the flue. Here! Calateeth looked. Definitely claws. A miscreation? One that can use tools. Calateeth's expression turned grim, and will kill people with them. Aberwith frowned, trying to put the events together in her mind. He came in through the window, killed him, locked the room, and crawled out the chimney? Looks that way. Can you go outside and check the wall? Yes, Lieutenant. Aberwith retraced her steps through the house, grateful to get away from the corpse. She stood below the window and moved her eyes slowly up the building. Calateeth stood above, waiting. I don't see anything, Aberwith said. The stones and mortar are smooth. There's no sign of scratches or gouges. Calateeth frowned. Right. Stay there. I'll come down and we'll speak to the butler and housekeeper. Then we'll tell the captain what we discovered. Yes, Lou. Something moved on the next roof. And that's the end of the chapter, because cliffhangers are fun. Another sip of water, if you'll excuse me. So that's chapter 2 of the book, and that's all our readings for tonight. And that's pretty much our schedule. I don't have anything else. We have one more prize to give away, and I'll do that in a moment. Any new questions? Anything else anyone would like to ask or like to say before we go forward? Ooh, clap, clap, clap. Thank you, Kevin. Cliffhangers are fun. Thank you, Christine. I hope you enjoy them. No, it's. I always like ending the chapters with a cliffhanger. It makes people lose. My first thought was roof. Yeah, I always like leaving cliffhangers. That it cause people to lose sleep if the book is good. And all my favorite books used to do that to me. Stephen King's It, I read when I was 16 years old, and it has many flaws. That book, thank you. But I bought it at 2:00 in the afternoon and finished it at 3:00 in the morning. So it certainly kept me going when I was a youngster. Let me tell you. Yeah, there's a second contest, and I've only had one entry so far, though I may have another one here. Hang on. There we go. Yeah, and then the second contest is the Great Typo Contest. Now, what this was is 3 emails back now, I sent out an email with a typo in it. Whoops. And so to celebrate that, I put out a request to all my subscribers to let me know if they saw the typo, and if so, to send in their what they saw, and they would win a prize. And the prize is, of course, an e-copy of Small Magics. And I am pleased to say that I have a winner. Only one person sent it in, and that, believe it or not, folks, is my mom. That's right. My mom caught my typo in my email. And I got a note saying, "Eric, were you aware that there's a typo in this email?" And I was like, No, I wasn't, but thank you. So my mom wins the copy of Small Magics, and yeah, that's what I got to say tonight, folks. There's really not much more. Yeah. Leave it to my mom to notice. She's got great eyes. She's an excellent reader. She goes through my books and she's like, "Oh, what about this? What about this?" She's a really good eyes, and I really appreciate her input. So yeah, so that's it for me this evening. We ran more or less on time. It's 10 minutes, only 12 minutes over, and I'm very glad to have been here and seen everyone here. Thank you so much, Christine. Thank you so much, Shirley. Yeah, that is what moms are for, Christine. She's real good at what she does. And then yeah, it's been a wonderful launch, and woohoo, go your mom. Yeah. Do you have plans for Mother's Day? Well, aside from sending her flowers and phoning her, staying home, because that's all we're allowed to do. Because we're in lockdown. And we're not allowed to see people except, waving at the balcony and throwing things across the street. But yes, I do have plans for Mother's Day. I'm going to send her a nice batch of flowers and her ebook. That's my plans for Mother's Day. So yeah. Anything else from anyone this evening? So lovely. Congratulations. Great to see you. I'm sorry I can't see you too, Louisa. So let's do a Zoom thing sometime too. Yeah, Sniff, it is sad, isn't it, Christine? But don't worry, soon we'll all get together again. Aw, thank you, Miles. Going to Zoom to see if anyone else is at First Thursday. All right, Shirley, have yourself a great time. And everyone, have yourselves a wonderful evening. Looking forward to the next book. Finished the Wire Noose this morning. You did, Gunnar? Oh, wonderful. I hope you enjoyed it immensely. Leave me a wonderful review if you did. And yes, the third book by Miles, by Shirley. The third book, the last thing that's missing on it is a title. The better than the fourth book. The Good Night, Christine. Bye, Louisa. Yeah, the title for the fourth book is currently working title. But the third book, I've just got to get the title, and then the edit goes, and we're done. So thank you all very much. I'm going to wave bye-bye, and I'm going to end the stream and sign off. Thank you all so much for coming out. It was wonderful to talk to everyone, even if I couldn't hear you. Great to read everything you wrote. Love to all of you. Mwah! I miss seeing humans in person. So we'll see you all again soon, I hope. Bye, everyone. Have a good night, and enjoy the book. Bye.